We've got another humiliating Trump rally as he tries to find his footing and the messaging that'll best work now that Kamala will be his opponent and not Biden. And well, none of it is really landing the way he wants it to, culminating in him coming off as sort of a bumbling old man. I know, quite the plot twist. So I've pulled a couple to analyze and that we can break down and go through with some context.
Days ago, she refused to attend the speech in Congress of the Prime Minister of Israel. She said, "Oh, I can't make it." There was just a small group of people, but they couldn't make it because that's her original thought. That's where she comes from. She doesn't like Jewish people.
Oh, wow, this is news. Maybe somebody should tell her husband, of whom is Jewish, that she's been happily married to for about 10 years now. And this is why these lines just won't hit anymore of trying to paint the other side as anti-Semitic just because she is willing to stand up to Netanyahu and call out the humanitarian crisis, the genocide going on in Gaza. It's just more nonsense from the bumbling old man. And it shows where Trump stands on the issue. He's firm in line with Israel, regardless of what genocidal actions that they take. He's going to back them. He uses Palestinian as a slur. He tells Israel to finish the job. He pulled out of the UN Human Rights Council to stand with Israel, and now he's trying to make more baseless claims about the opponent that couldn't even sort of be true. Again, she's been married to a Jewish man, but yeah, she's anti-Semitic, right? All because facts don't matter to his base, so he knows they'll eat it up regardless.
It was so bad, and they pretended it was good, and they're doing the same thing with her. She was a bum 3 weeks ago. She was a bum. A failed vice president in a failed administration.
Kamala Harris has broken more ties than any vice president in history. She broke more ties in a month than any vice president in history, broke more in a year's time than any vice president in history. And this is their main duty to do so. She's been the vote that allowed the American Rescue Plan, that cut child poverty in half, that allowed the Inflation Reduction Act, that has brought inflation down over 6% to the economically desirable 3%, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the first infrastructure we've seen in over a decade. Major pieces of legislation that will define this administration for years to come. And by the way, also, she was never the border czar. Right-wing media tried to paint her as such in 2021. She rejected the title then. They're just trying to bring that talking point back now. She was never in any role where she had any actual authority over the border or acting on it. She was just there to speak to these countries about the root causes, of which she did, by the way. Biden then tried to pass legislation to mediate asylum claims, give more legal pathways, take away the undocumented entry points that were the most hazardous or causing the most issues. And as I've shown in multiple videos, Republicans refused to legislate on this in any way in 2021, so they could use it as a talking point running in the midterms in 2022. And now they're recycling that playbook, trying to use it as a talking point in the general in 2024.
In my first 4 years, we will totally transform the federal bench, appointing remember this, I appointed nearly 300 judges to defend the law and the Constitution as written. I defended this law, this Constitution. Then they say, oh, he is not for democracy. I took a bullet for democracy. He didn't.
Yeah, no, he took a bullet because of his constant turning up the volume of violence in our political rhetoric, of which he's done so since 2016. He's laughed at political violence at every turn possible. He's made signals towards it multiple times, mentioning the Second Amendment, people can take care of Hillary, sharing pictures of Biden hogtied. This is the world that he created. And as to him appointing judges, it just shows why we must back Harris and the Democrats, so Trump can't continue to pack the courts in an undemocratic way that will always rule against democracy and for fascism. It'll always fall back in giving him favorable judgments that allow him to subvert the law. That is not democracy. That is authoritarian fascism, when you can't be held accountable between the widespread immunity he shares from the Supreme Court and the courts that will always rule in his favor if he is allowed to keep packing them the way he does.
She went back to him, and she will go back. If she ever got in, she will go back to all of those horrible original thoughts that she had. She'll appoint hardcore Marxists to the Supreme Court to shred our Constitution.
I mean, there's literally no way that this ignorant old man could define what a Marxist is, or Marxism for that matter. It's just a literal catch-all term that he uses against anything he doesn't like. If it's bad, it's Marxism. But you know, capitalism is what's keeping hundreds of thousands of people starving, dying on the streets without housing, without healthcare, without food. It's go capitalism, brother. It's capitalism is why the federal minimum wage has been $7.25 for almost 20 years. But you know. I digress, right? Kamala is indeed to the left of Biden, but she's not a Marxist. She's like a progressive, but she's like in the line between a progressive and a liberal. She's not even that progressive. And I don't think that painting her to the left of Biden only will help further unite the base around her, where a lot of progressives were refusing to vote for a centrist like Biden. I mean, she believes in things like Medicare for all, progressive taxes, but none of these are Marxists. It's just like, if you know what Marxism is, you would laugh at that. And I would love to know the Marxist judges that she would appoint to the Supreme Court. In reality, it would be liberal judges that would get our Supreme Court to act once again like the highest court in the country, rather than the side jockeys for Trump that allow him to do fascism and subvert the law.